Good morning, committee, and welcome to any member of the public joining the 30th of September 2021 meeting of the Western and Southern Area Planning Committee, which is one of the three area-based planning committees of the Dorset Council. Our area of remit covers the previous Weymouth and Portland Borough Council and most of the previous West Dorset District Council areas. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the council has had to put in place measures to enable the council's decision-making process to continue whilst keeping safe members of the public, councillors and council staff in accordance with the government's guidance on social distancing. As the regulations allowing decisions to be made at committee meetings from remote locations have now expired, the council has decided that the committee will continue to meet remotely and make a minded to resolution with an officer delegated to make the formal decision. The officer will make their decision immediately after the committee has voted on each item and will give reasons for their decision if their decision differs from the minded to resolution. Therefore, this meeting is being live streamed to the public and a copy of the recording will be available on the council website following the meeting. Members of the public are invited to make written representations provided they are submitted to Democratic Services by 8:30 a.m. no later than 2 working days before the meeting. These representations will take the form of written statements of no more than 450 words, with no attachments, and will be read out at the committee meeting by our administration assistant. For the benefit of the public, my name is Councillor David Shortell, and I'm chairman of this area planning committee, and my vice chairman is Councillor Bill Pipe. To introduce other members of the committee, Councillor Dave Barwell. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you. Councillor Kelvin Clayton. Good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning all.
Councillor Susan Cocking. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you. Councillor Jean Dancer. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Nick Ireland. Good morning, Nick.
Morning, Chairman.
Good morning to you. Councillor Paul Kimber. Good morning,
Paul.
Chair.
Good morning, Chair, and everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Louis O'Leary. Good morning, Louis.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning to you. Councillor Kate Weller. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Councillor Sarah Williams. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning to you. And Councillor John Worth. Good morning, John. Okay. For information, officers involved in this meeting include Anna Lee, Service Manager, Anne Collins, Area Manager, Western and Southern Team, Philip Crowther, Solicitor, Jenny Williams, Technical Support, and Denise Hunt, Democratic Services. Good morning to you all. May I advise the committee and members of the public that item 5 on the agenda, HI 1229 Custom House Quay Weymouth, Public Realm Enhancement, to consider a report concerning a traffic regulation order, has been deferred for technical reasons and will not be determined at this meeting. Right, well, take the agenda items in order. And the first item on the agenda is apologies, and to confirm any apologies received. Over to you.
Chairman, I've received an apology from Councillor Bill Pipe, and Councillor John Worth has notified me he'll be arriving a bit later on in the meeting.
Thank you very much for that. Members, as Councillor Bill Pipe is the vice chairman of this committee, it is necessary to nominate a member to stand in as acting vice chairman for this meeting. I therefore propose Councillor Louis O'Leary to be appointed vice chairman. I will seek a seconder and take a vote by roll call. Do I have a seconder?
I would second it, Chair. Councillor Susan Cocking.
Thank you, Susan. And can I take a vote by roll call, please, to see if that's in order? Councillor Dave Barwell.
Yes, I approve, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
Yes.
Councillor Susan Cocking.
Yes, Chair.
Of course you do. It's for clarification. Councillor Jean Dunseth.
Approved, Chairman.
Councillor Nick Ireland.
Yes.
Councillor Paul Kimber.
Approved, Chair.
Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Approved, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
Yes.
Councillor Sarah Williams.
Yes.
Checking to see if Councillor John Worth has arrived. Oh, that's fine. Okay, that is approved. Over to you, Councillor Louis O'Leary. You're now Vice Chairman for this meeting.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We'll now take item 2 on the agenda, and that's declaration of interest. Does any member have any declarations of pecuniary or other conflict of interest, bias or predetermination regarding any item on the agenda?
Chair, it's Councillor Susan Cockin. On item 4A, WP/18/006662, land off Common Road. I've already sought legal advice from our solicitor Philip Crowther, and on a bias determination, I will not be taking part on debating or voting on this application due to the fact that Portland Town Council, I was the lead councillor with a building project, and one of the applicants was the lead builder as well. So, and also I personally know the applicant and use him as in a personal state as well. But it was to do mainly with the project for Portland Town Council, and I did not vote on the original application as well. And I left the room at that time. And after seeking advice, it's best if I do not do that on this part of the application as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Does anyone else have any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. On the same item, Paul Kimber.
Hello, Paul.
Chair, as you know, I've spoken against this item before I was on the planning committee, which means I'm predetermined. And as you know, I've requested to speak on this item as ward councillor.
Okay, Paul. Right, I've duly noted that. And when we come to that particular item, I'll take those 2 declarations into account. Does anyone else have any declarations of interest? Thank you. I would like to inform the committee and members of the public that because this is an informal meeting of the committee, which can only make minded to resolutions, we are unable to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on the 9th of September 2021. This will be done at the next formal meeting. Public participation is item 3 on the agenda. The committee receives a number of written representations submitted in accordance with the amended speaking protocol effective from the 20th July 2020. That is, the first 3 public statements received in objection and the first 3 in support, including the applicant or agent, will be read out by an officer not involved in the application. This number does not include representations received from town and parish councils or by relative Dorset councillors. The written statements have been circulated to all members of the committee prior to this meeting, which I believe all the members has received. Right, item 4 on the agenda is planning applications. We have 5 planning applications before us today for consideration. A comfort break of 5 or 10 minutes will be taken as and when is required. There are 2 sessions. There's a morning session, and then we'll break for lunch and then take the afternoon session where there is 1 item to consider, application to consider. So therefore, I'll proceed with item 4A on the agenda, and that is WP 18/00662 FUL, and that is land off Verne Common Road and Ventnor Road, Portland, for the development of vacant land by the demolition of a garage, formation of a vehicle access, erection of 25 dwellings and associated landscape. I now invite Emma Telford, the case officer, to introduce this item. Good morning, Emma.
Morning, and thank you, Chair. I'll just share my
presentation. Can I just check that you can see that?
Yes, we can, Emma. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. So this application is at land off of Verne Common Road and Ventnor Road, Portland. This application previously came to committee in February 2020, where a resolution was made to grant the application. However, a decision has not yet been issued, and in that time, the Portland Neighbourhood Plan has been made, and therefore it has been brought back to committee. Have changed since that last resolution was made. So the first slide is to show you the red line plan of the application, so showing the extent of the site there. And next we've got an aerial photograph with the red arrows pointing to the site, which is made up of two parcels of land. You've got one parcel here, which is fenced off and used for horses. And then you've got the other parcel here, which is currently open to residents. You've got Verne Common Road here and Ventnor Road down here. The next slide is showing the site plan with the proposed access off of Verne Common Road. It also shows the layout of the proposed 25 dwellings, and the sloping nature of the site means that the development is laid out in 3 tiers. The proposal includes 59 parking spaces and 22 garage spaces as well. And it also includes the provision of 5 affordable units on site with a financial contribution for the remainder. This next slide is showing the elevations of the upper tier. So this first line is showing the relationship with the existing properties of Verne Common Road, which you can see in the dashed purple lines, and then the proposal here. And then the second one is showing the street scene looking at that upper tier from within the site. Then just a closer up elevation of one of the 4-bed properties in that upper tier, with proposed materials are a mix of render, Portland stone and grey multi-brick. So the same again for that middle tier of development, again obviously showing the dwellings from each side there, and then a kind of a close-up elevation of the 3-bed properties that make up the middle tier. And then the same again for the lower tier, obviously showing it from both sides. And in the lower tier, there is also 2 sets of semi-detached properties that you can see here. And then again, a closer up elevation of that 2-bed, of those 2-bed semis. And then closer up elevations of the terrace of 5 properties, each which are 3-bed. The next couple of slides are all sections of the site, showing the relationship between the proposed dwellings and also the existing properties. This one is obviously showing these first 2 proposed properties and that spacing between the proposed properties and the existing with Ventnor Road there. This next one is obviously further into the site, and again it's showing the relationship between the proposed properties and how that will work on the sloping nature and how they would be stepped down on the slope. And then this next one obviously is showing the spacing between the proposed properties and the existing on Verne Common Road, and then also the spacing between the proposed properties and the existing ones on Ventnor Road. And obviously the proposed properties are set lower than those existing on the opposite side of Verne Common Road. And then this next one is showing that terrace of 5 properties that you can see here, and showing that relationship in in relation to the neighbouring properties as well. So next up we have some photos. These first two are taken from Verne Common Road, and these are showing that kind of first parcel of land which is used for horses and is currently fenced off. Then these next photos show that second parcel of land which is currently open to residents, and obviously it's showing that relationship with the surrounding properties as well. And these next two are showing Verne Common Road and where the proposed access to the site would be. And then the next photo is taken looking back at the site, and it's taken from Portland Beach Road at Osprey Quay. And that red arrow is indicating where the site is in relation to kind of the surrounding built development there. This next slide has set out the relevant policies of the Portland Neighbourhood Plan to this application. I think it's important to note at this point that the council cannot currently demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and the Portland Neighbourhood Plan does not contain any housing allocations. Therefore, paragraph 14 of the NPPF does not bite, and this means the application should be considered in relation to para 11D of the NPPF and considered in the planning balance, which is set out in the officer's report. So the recommendation for this one is minded to grant, and that is with the completion of a section 106 to secure those 5 affordable rented units on site and a financial contribution as set out there for the remainder of the affordable housing, and a financial contribution for grassland compensation and management of the local nature reserve. And then the following conditions. So you've got the standard time limit and plans list, details of materials for the development to be carried out in accordance with the biodiversity plan, the submission of a construction management plan. You've got one there for landscaping, drainage, highway layout, and then there is also a condition for an electric car charging scheme to be submitted as well. And then that's it from me on this one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you for reading that. I now invite Jenny Williams to read out the written representation submitted to Democratic Services. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. First representation, Stuart Morris. I strongly object to this application. This is virgin open hillside which has never been developed other than allotments. By any definition, this is greenfield. This steep hillside is an important part of the unique landscape and is very prominent from several standpoints, especially new ground, Portland Heights, Chesil, etc. This land has been considered sacrosanct even from days of the former Portland Urban District Council, and previous suggestions that it could be built on have been firmly rejected. The fact that this is in private ownership with no public path on it is irrelevant to the planning process. Destroying this grassland will make a mockery of the council's policy of allowing verges to remain uncut, which desire to encourage wildflowers. This is a bigger natural area than much of Portland's verges. Destroying this grassland will mean an irreplaceable loss, and no monetary compensation or biodiversity plan can replace it. It is highly misleading to suggest that a biodiversity mitigation plan can in any way compensate for the loss of this land. Portland Island has no more land to offer. In addition to the wild nature of the flora, the soil there is obviously a habitat of numerous invertebrates, so important to the food chain and ecology in the area. The entire Verne Common hillside has produced copious archaeological evidence. In particular, many Roman stone sarcophagi and other artifacts were found in the construction of the adjoining housing estate in the 1950s. Being closer to the historic heart of Fortuneswell, this site may even contain more important remains from multiple periods. Nothing should be done before comprehensive archaeological investigations have been carried out, much more than the 2016 evaluation brackets 8.20. The comments of Historic England show a scant superficial understanding of this area. There is much potential on this site on its own merit, not merely linked to the nearby conservation area or the Verne Citadel. Successive local and development plans have consistently put this land outside the development boundaries for very good reasons. It should be preserved. Underhill has a surfeit of houses that were built as affordable, including the densely packed 19th century terraces and the entire Verne Common estate. A high proportion of current houses on sale on Portland are to people moving from away, so much of this development would not serve any local housing need. The representations in section 9.0 are well considered and valid. To dismiss them by approving this development would show a blatant disregard for the interests and values of Portlanders. Tracy Matthews Belcher. I made an objection to this development when the planning was first submitted, and my objections still stand. However, I would like to add the following in line with the local council's neighbourhood plan. This is a green site and should be valued as such. Any housing planned for this site will mainly consist of housing aimed at second home buyers and not local people. This is not in line with the council neighbourhood plan and indeed only adds to the housing shortage for local needy people. 5 rentable properties does not reflect what this area needs at all. The access to this site is via Verne Common Road, which for those councillors that are unfamiliar with Portland is the only access to the very busy Verne prison. The road is busy with staff, deliveries and visitors to the prison. There are often large HGV vehicles that have to negotiate parked cars all the way up the road, mounting pavements or speedy staff members on their mobiles after a busy shift. To add to this by adding 50 plus vehicles to the properties, given all properties have at least 2 to 3 parking spaces, is absolute madness, not to mention the construction traffic. The majority of the properties coming up the road are ex-local housing authority managed by Astor that have no or little off-road parking, and therefore the road is difficult to access easily for emergency vehicles. I have witnessed ambulances trying to find spaces to get a vulnerable person or get to a vulnerable person in their homes, around HGVs, etc. This does not need to be made worse. Also, I am not sure that a committee made up of non-Portland councillors can really make a decision about a development that they will never be affected by. The fact the builder involved has connections with the town council should not be a reason to pass the buck to people who aren't involved in the community. This builder has also submitted plans for a pump house to service another of his developments, and this should be taken into account too. I feel that this planning permission will go the same way as those that have been passed before for this site. It seems to just serve to make more money on once a lovely field where kestrels hunt, so that it can be sold for more money to a different buyer each time. This should not be something Dorset Council should be supporting. Jeffrey Lucas. I am writing to complain about the overdevelopment of Portland with regards of housing. Portland is a very overcrowded island with not enough facilities for the people who already live there. More houses, more congestion on that one single road leading to Portland. I understand there is plans to build on the old Southwell School and Portland Manor School. They need more chemists, doctors and other community services. I am aware people have to have somewhere to live, but not on a small island that is already overcrowded. I travel to Portland regularly, and that Portland Road is getting more of a problem, which will get worse if you continue to overpopulate it. Andrew Matthews. My name is Andrew Matthews, and I have been involved with the development of the Portland Neighbourhood Plan since its inception. I am writing on the matter of concern in regard to the officer's report in regard to this application, in particular the section on the assessment of the Portland Neighbourhood Plan, Section B, and the conclusion that the Portland Neighbourhood Plan therefore contains no housing allocations and instead relies on strategic allocations and windfall development from the adopted West Dorset, Weymouth and Portland Local Plan 2015 and emerging Dorset Council Local Plan later in the plan period to meet identified housing need. The assessment quoted in this section was underpinned by a growth and strategy report. This concluded that development on Portland should be focused on maximising the brownfield supply in Underhill and supporting the viability of Eastern Centre in Top Hill. The report included a supply of sites and additional site assets by AECOM. At the Weymouth and Portland and West Dorset local plan review, further sites were put forward and were noted by the Neighbourhood Plan Group. In October 2019, Dorset Council started to undertake their own SHLAAR review and indicated that this was a fresh review and that any previous submissions would have to be resubmitted. Upon inquiry of officers as to whether we needed to re-establish the sites we had included, it was agreed that this was not required as the report formed part of the evidence base for the plan. The total yield for the sites in the report was 1,229. We have been monitoring the position around this, and our current estimate is 1,294 units could be available. We are also aware of additional sites which would support the spatial strategy adopted. The local plan review included 1,050 units being required on Portland. A reason for undertaking a neighbourhood plan was to provide a stable basis for housing on Portland to develop. The Chief Planning Officer recently noted that only 2% of neighbourhood plans had originated from areas suffering multiple deprivation. In order to continue to support our plan and efforts of volunteers to deliver on this, we therefore ask that the local planning authority correct their assumptions at section B. With regards to WP 18-00662 full, a review and consultation on development boundaries was undertaken, and the conclusion of this consultation was the sensitivity of this site is clearly set out in the planning application. By leaving this outside the development boundary, this reaffirms the need for this to be developed appropriately. Steve Hoskins, Agent. Good morning, committee members. The main part of this site was approved for development with 8 houses in 2016. The proposal now before you includes adjacent land owned by Astor. This layout, prepared in close consultation with Astor, provides a more efficient and comprehensive land use, one that offers greater community benefit. The officer's report sets out the development plan and MPPF policies that apply to this application. These remain the same as those when the committee resolved to approve this scheme last year. In relation to the recently adopted Portland Neighbourhood Plan, I make the following observations. Historic England has reconfirmed that the proposals will not adversely affect the adjoining conservation area or harm any heritage assets. Most of the site is privately owned and not accessible to the public. The former play area use of the smaller Astor-owned section was discontinued years ago. The site is surrounded by existing housing. This scheme is effectively infilling with new homes of a high design standard. Significant landscaping improvements will be carried out to improve the present, underutilised and neglected appearance of the overall site. The development density of the proposed new homes is demonstrably lower than that of existing and recently approved nearby housing. Natural England has confirmed that the proposals will not result in adverse effects on the site's integrity. A biodiversity mitigation and enhancement plan has been agreed for measures that will protect and enhance the ecological value of the site. The proposals align entirely with the National Planning Policy Framework aims. They meet economic and social objectives by providing a range of high quality new homes that will meet needs and bring additional household spending into the community to help support existing and new businesses. Environmental benefits come from the landscaping improvements and agreed BMEP measures. Members will be aware of the Council's 5-year housing land supply deficit, exacerbated locally by issues that have held back the redevelopment of the former Hardy Naval accommodation blocks. This is a deliverable opportunity for new homes, one that will show real investment confidence in the locality. In summary, this is a carefully considered and sustainable new homes proposal with clear community benefits. There are no demonstrable adverse impacts that outweigh national, local and neighbourhood plan objectives. 5 on-site, family-size affordable homes will be provided in addition to financial contributions for other policy requirements. Members are therefore respectfully requested to accept the officer's recommendation to reapprove, subject to concluding the Section 106 agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jenny. That's very kind, very well read. I will now invite Councillor Paul Kimber, who is the ward member, to address the committee. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Could I request the photograph showing the Verne Common and showing this piece of unique land is put up, Chair?
Is that okay?
That's very much, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. If I may go. As shown by the photographs, this is a unique piece of land. I want to correct one thing that's been said. This piece of land, open space land, is quite easy to get to. It doesn't restrict any residents from going on there. This is a unique piece of land that's very, very beautiful, and we need to be able to protect it and keep it. As many of you know, Underhill is very much overdeveloped, and we have very, very little open space. And this is one little open space that has never been touched, and I believe that we should keep it this way by rejecting this application. We've recognised that this is unique, and I want to say also amount of open space where young people have been able to enjoy this area, play on it, and also be able to look and very much awake, because as I've said, it's very, very crowded in Underhill with very little land. But there's 7 points I want you to consider. This would be a loss of a green site and open space with natural. This would, as has been said already by the representations, wildlife and for the children to play would be absolutely harmed. We would have increased traffic on the Verne, which would be a major concern, increased pollution, a loss of wildlife and habitats, a loss of historic land, and lastly, Chair, overdevelopment. That's my representation, and I submit this to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Paul. I'll now call on Emma Telford to respond with any salient points you may wish to clarify. Back to you, Emma.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, there is a few points I'd like to come back on. I think that the first being about the comments regarding the Portland Neighbourhood Plan. These were discussed with planning policy and the community planning manager, and who stand by the position as set out in the report as to why paragraph 14 of the NPPF does not apply, and as I set out in my presentation as well. I'd also like to set out that planning permission has previously been granted on the site for 8 dwellings back in 2016, although it was never implemented. A biodiversity plan has been agreed with the Natural Environment team, and a contribution would be secured for grassland compensation and management of the local nature reserve. I'd also like to set out that the senior archaeologist was consulted as part of the application and required no further evaluation or mitigation. I'd also like to set out that obviously highways were consulted and they too raised no objections, subject to conditions which would be placed on any approval granted. And we are also looking to condition a construction management plan. And then the only other point I would like to make is that the development is still liable as well. But that's all the points from me I wanted to come back on.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. That's fine. Okay, committee, I'll now ask if there's any questions of a purely technical nature for the case officer. Do we have anyone, Louis?
You have Councillor Calvin Clayton and then Councillor Jean Dunseith.
Okay. Councillor Clayton, you've got a technical question.
I've got 3 technical questions, if that's okay, Chair.
Yes, yes, yes.
They're probably quite easy to answer. It's just for my own clarification. First of all, it was approved in February 20, but permission not issued. Can I ask why?
Okay. Do you want those to be answered separately, or will you ask them?
I don't mind. How do you want them, Chair? I can give all 3 together.
I think it might be a good idea to ask them all 3.
Okay.
And I'm sure that Emma will be making notes of each question and then answer them in turn.
Okay, second one, just for clarity, I've been through the report. Am I correct in thinking that Portland Town Council have made no comment on this? And my third question is, NPPF talks about land designated as local green space. Just for my own clarity here, it does need to be designated as green open space, and if so, is this designated as green open space? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Clayton. I'm now going to take you back to Emma to answer those 3 questions. Over to you, Emma.
Please let me know if I've missed anything out. But the reason the decision wasn't issued is around discussions with the Section 106 and negotiations to get the affordable housing provider involved at that stage with the Section 106. So it's just that those discussions have taken some time. The second point about Portland Town Council, they declined to make a comment on this application. And then in relation to the final point, it is designated in the neighbourhood plan as an area of incidental open space. And Verne Common is listed as one of those incidental areas of open space in the neighbourhood plan.
Is an incidental open space the same as a local green space as designated in the NPPF?
I'll go back to Emma to answer that, if I may.
Can I ask Anne to if she's got any further clarification on that point?
Anne, would you like to come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. It's obviously not designated in our local plan. We have got a policy in our local plan about sort of green infrastructure network, and it's not in that. It is obviously in the neighbourhood plan, which is more up to date. And it's really just for members to decide what weight they wish to attach to the amenity or value of this piece of land in the planning judgment, really. Obviously, a policy document does identify it as a site of sort of amenity value. But it's for the planning balance to consider the significance of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Does that answer all your questions, Councillor Campbell?
For the time, yeah, for the time being, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Now, Louis, we had another technical question.
You have Councillor Jean Danteith.
That's who I was thinking of. Councillor Danteith, your technical question, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. In the heading, it says demolish a garage, but on going through, I don't think I've really seen where that garage was or is. Could that be pointed out to us, please? And I just wondered about the play area. On the map that on the diagram we're looking at now, is it that circle that's above the some of the lower housing? Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, I'll take that back to Emma, if I may. Over to you, Emma.
I was just going to go back to the photographs if I can.
Is that it?
Trying to see if I've got a photograph that that's probably better. Yeah, so you've got this building here which is to be demolished.
Right, thank you. Yes, I thought that was the one.
Yeah, okay, Jean, thank you. Answers your question. Is that classified? May I ask a question, Is that classified as a garage, therefore?
That's what they've titled it as part of the application.
That's fair enough. Okay. Any
What-
other technical?
What about the play area, Chairman?
Oh, sorry, Emma. Did you want to answer that question about the play area?
Can I ask you to repeat it? Sorry.
Where, location.
There is kind of an area of shared space here. I haven't got any details about whether it was to be a play area, or I think it was just some planting, and then kind of a shared communal space.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it, Nancy. Is there any further technical questions, Louis?
Yes, you have Councillor Nick Ireland.
Okay, Nick, would you like to come in on your technical question, please?
Yeah, I have a few, I guess.
Okay,
I just looked up. I've just looked up incidental open space, and it's on a website called lawinsider.com. And incidental open space is spaces within phases which the owner or developer intends to be made available for use by members of the public. I'll just throw that out there because it might be relevant to the debate later. The one thing that really worries me about the report is we've got a brand new neighbourhood plan. It's 3 months old. You can't get much fresher than that, and it has a defined development boundary. Okay, it doesn't allocate any housing, but it's, as one of the members of the public who commented earlier says, they rely on the report they produced and the local plan. So I guess my question is, it's probably pretty simple, is the land that's proposed today, is that defined anywhere in the existing West Dorset and Weymouth and Portland local plan as anything, or is it defined for housing? Because it seems to me that if you've got a neighbourhood plan which has a development boundary, the other three things are ticked. We have a 5-year shortage supply. Yes, we're well within the 3-year on the two items. It seems to me that if you can build on this land with a brand new neighbourhood plan which doesn't identify it as somewhere we should be building on, what's the use of having a neighbourhood plan? So is there any designation at all other than this being in a conservation area? Is it outlined as somewhere we should have been building on? The answer is no, I suspect. But yeah.
Okay, is that your questions, Nick? Before I go back to Emma for. Okay, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to go back to you, Emma, to answer those 3 questions.
So the site is located outside of the defined development boundary in both the local plan and the neighbourhood plan. But as set out in the report, because paragraph 14 of the NPPF doesn't apply, we are looking at paragraph 11D, where you have to put it, you have to weigh it up in the balance because we don't have that 5-year housing land supply.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Ireland?
Yeah, it does. I'll carry on in the debate. Okay.
Okay. Any other technical questions?
Yes. Yes, Chairman. Councillor Dave Bolwell.
David Bolwell. Okay. Councillor Bolwell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Louis. I'd just like to go back briefly to this question about NPPF paragraph 14. I was struck by the letter from Andrew Matthews that mentioned that could the officers please relook at their assumptions made in point B, which is whether the plan actually is allocated housing. There seems to be, in my mind, there's a question that he seems to feel that the allocated housing was there, but the officers were saying that it wasn't necessary to put this forward, and it doesn't seem to be obviously correctly put in the plan. Could you just clear this up for me? Because from my mind, saying that paragraph 14 doesn't apply, I have a question on whether it actually does or does not due to this omission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will then go back to Emma. It's regarding the question on item 14 on the neighbourhood plan.
So clarification was sought from planning policy regarding those points raised in that response. and they kind of stand by their point, the fact that paragraph 14 doesn't apply, and that is because at the moment the council cannot currently demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and that the Portland Neighbourhood Plan does not contain any housing allocations, and therefore paragraph 14 doesn't apply, and that means that we have to consider it in relation to paragraph 11D, which is weighing it up in that planning balance.
Yes, Chair, can I come back on that, please?
Yes, of course you can, Councillor Bell.
Yeah, I fully understand what you're saying. I think my point in question is the assumption that paragraph 14 does not apply, because the letter from Andrew Matthews was indicating that they did put forward housing allocations, but the planning officers at the time told them that they didn't need to, because this was the basis of the report or the plan. And it seems to have got lost at that stage. Now, in my mind, that's what's happened, but I'm just seeking clarification as to why he insists that you need to reassess your impression of point B, and we seem to have missed that completely. So I'd like you to sort of dig a bit deeper into that for me, if you could, please.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Do you want to any further response to that, Emma?
I don't know if any of the other officers want to make any comments.
I think Anna does.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. If that would be okay, I may be able to assist here. Thank you. Yes, firstly, it is difficult for us to comment in regard to advice that may have been given during the neighbourhood plan preparation process. And the position we're in today is we need to assess this application against the policies in the neighbourhood plan and taking account of national planning policy and guidance. What I wanted to direct members' attention to is that the planning practice guidance does include specific statements in regard to whether or not paragraph 14 can apply in a situation like this. If I may just read out one extract from the planning practice guidance, it does state that policies and allocations within other development plan documents, for example, strategic site allocations or windfall development set out in a local plan or spatial development strategy, will not meet criterion 14B of the National Planning Policy Framework. So essentially, whilst I can absolutely understand the frustrations around the neighbourhood plan, I think that the national guidance and policy is clear that paragraph 14B wouldn't apply in this case because the neighbourhood plan doesn't have any housing allocations. I hope that may assist.
Thank you, Anna.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Anna. It assists. I'm still feel quite sad about this particular fact, but the way you've put it, there's not much else that I wish to bring up on that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bell. That's fine. Any other technical questions?
Yes, Chairman. Councillor G, Councillor Dunseith again, and then Councillor Ireland again.
Okay, you want to come back on that?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's just from my notes here. I note that this site is crossed by a 3-inch, I believe I've got here, water main. Could officers show where this water main is, please, and would it be rerouted? Because I do know that you can't build basically 3 meters either side of a water main. So I was just wondering where it is. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Dunseith. Would you like to come back on that, Anna, at all?
I must admit, I can't indicate the precise location of it. Wessex Water were consulted as part of the application. And they were involved in discussions about the position of the water main and the impact of the proposal on it. And they advised for the applicant to contact them directly, but they didn't raise any objections.
Oh, thank you. So presumably this would have been discussed and sorted out then to Wessex Water's satisfaction.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on there, Emma, do we have any indication that in fact they have been contacted by the applicant?
Not at this moment in time, no.
Okay, thank you. Someone else was wanting a technical question, Councillor Leary?
Yes, me.
Councillor Ireland.
Oh yes, it was. Sorry, Nick.
Sorry, apologies if this question was answered before. I can't remember now, to be honest.
Carry on.
The provision of the 5 rented affordable units. Is there actually a provider already earmarked to run these? Is my first question. Is there?
Yes, there is. The applicant is in discussions with Magna.
Okay, you say in discussions, but have they decided? Is the question, because so we've had recent quite a few recent planning applications. One in my ward in Crossways springs to mind, which is actually being built as we speak. Where in the end the affordable housing was removed, the rented affordable housing, because no RP would take on such a small unit, so amount of units. So I'm slightly concerned that when you say it's in discussion, if it's not going to happen, they're going to come back and take them away.
I will just I might be wrong about who the affordable housing provider is actually, but the reason the decision wasn't issued after the February committee was because the applicant wanted them to be involved in the Section 106, and the reason we're bringing it back now is because they are now ready to be party to the Section 106.
Okay.
Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Nick? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, insofar as I guess it doesn't stop them pulling out. Yeah, okay, we'll see.
Well, we can't debate that at the moment because we haven't got that information, and we're just judging the application on its worth. Any other technical questions, Louis?
No, Chairman.
Well, then in that case, then before I open the debate to members, may I remind you to direct any questions or remarks through the chair, and I will invite members to speak in turn. Request to speak needs to be made via the virtual chat facility. Can I also remind members that the chat facility is for the smooth running of the meeting and must not be used for discussion on the merits of an application. Please keep microphones on mute when not speaking to preserve audio quality. And I now open the debate to members. So have we got the first speaker?
No one yet, Chairman.
Okay, all right. Has anyone? If there's no speakers,
There's a Councillor Kate Weller, Chairman.
Councillor Kate Weller. Over to you, Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. To answer one of the representatives early on in this discussion, I am very familiar with this area of land, although I'm not a Portland councillor. It was actually part of my ward under the former Dorset County Council, so I know it well. I'm involved in various activities in that area, so I visit it most weeks. So I don't think my knowledge of the area can be doubted. And I'm really concerned about this. I don't want to go over all the things that people have already said because that is tedious in the extreme. But Mr. Stuart Morris's letter was very, very helpful. I think the things he stated were completely in tune with what I think, and other people discussed that the medical facilities on the island at the moment are stretched to breaking point with the current residents. It is an area of multiple deprivation. That means that the infrastructure in terms of medical services, clinics and so on needs to be very much better than in any other area, to be honest, and they simply aren't. And unless I see some improvement in those facilities, I cannot, in all honesty, support more houses being built on Portland. In this particular location, this open space is hugely valuable to the residents of Verne Common Road, to those people, even those people coming out to visit their family and their friends at the prison. This open space is valuable to them, and frankly, I think the houses look lovely designs, and what a nice place to live with that beautiful view. But the people who need those, that need homes, are not the people who are going to be living there. Those are going to be homes for people who, you know, our local residents simply won't be able to afford them. They will end up as second homes, and I fear the affordable homes won't materialise either. And five affordable homes is laughable for the needs of Portland and for the area. So I'm afraid I can't support this.
Okay, thank you, Willa. Okay, do we have any other speakers, Louis?
Just let you know, Councillor John Worth has joined us, but the only other speaker at the minute is Councillor Jean Dunseith.
Right, Councillor Dunseith, would you like to make
Thank you, Chairman. Yes. My comment was going to be about the road. It's really quite a difficult road to get up. It is on quite a steep slope, which goes without saying, and you are coming to quite a bad corner there. And this is where they want to make the entry road to this estate. And I know what highways have said, but from a practical point of view of getting in and out, I can see complications with it. And I also know, just sitting here looking at this plan now, that the layout of the estate, it's very linear, really. It's lines of houses. Now, when you know about the slope of the land, you can understand why you couldn't have it going in all directions. You basically have to build along it, and I understand that. But it gives it a very regimented appearance. That's what I wanted to say, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunseith. Do we have any other speakers?
You have Councillor Dave Bowell.
Okay, Councillor Bowell. Okay, Councillor Bowell, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Twice in one application, unusual for me.
Oh, the technical.
I've actually I've heard everything. I find this is a difficult one. I'm coming back to planning policies here, and I am struggling to find a reason to not approve this application. I understand what Councillor Kate Weller just said, and all the other councillors and you know, the objectors. But personally, I am finding a problem, really struggling to find a planning policy reason to say no. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowell. Any other speakers, Councillor Louis?
Not at the minute. Oh, Councillor Nick Ireland just come in.
Okay, Councillor Ireland, you want to speak?
Yeah, I just put my views out there since everybody else is. I find it really disappointing that we have a neighbourhood plan which seems to have absolutely no teeth. I suspect we'll never have a 5-year housing supply, so essentially that means the neighbourhood plan will never have any effect at all. However, I note that Portland Town Council made no comment, which I find a bit bizarre, really. It's their neighbourhood plan, I assume, yet they haven't objected or supported, which is passing the buck, I suspect. Yeah, I'll think about how I'm going to vote in a minute, I think. Yeah. Cheers.
Okay, well, we'll just take those votes at the moment. Any other speakers before we look for a proposer or seconder?
No, Chairman,
right.
nothing.
Okay. Can I therefore ask members to contemplate on the application and then someone come up with a proposal? Anyone proposing for or against? Well, we need a proposer and a seconder in order to take a vote, and at the moment we haven't got one. So.
Councillor Dave Bowell, Chairman.
Councillor Dave Bowell. Councillor Bowell, are you proposing?
Yes, I am proposing, Chair. I'm proposing. I'm minded to approve the application.
Approve. Okay. Do we have a seconder? I will second that. I second the proposal for approval. So we've got a proposal and a second to approve. Now I'm going to force you to make a decision. So can I, for clarity, confirm that you are in favour, Councillor Burwell?
Yes, I'm minded to approve, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Clayton?
Have I got to make a decision, Chair?
Would be good, unless you want to abstain, but it's better if you make a decision. If I'm not trying to.
Very reluctantly, I approve.
Thank you for that. Councillor Jean Dancer.
No, I'm not in favour of this. Against, Chairman.
Against. Okay, thank you very much. I'm then going to go to Councillor Nick Ireland.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, isn't it? I think the turning point for me is the fact that Portland Town Council didn't object, so I'll have to approve.
Thank you for that. Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
Against.
Okay. Councillor Sarah Williams.
Again, it's a very difficult one, but I agree with Nick, as there was no objection from Portland Town Council, that I will approve. I'm minded to approve.
Okay, and as I have already stated, I am approving, so because I seconded it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favour, and 1, 2, 3 against.
You, Chairman, I don't know, is Councillor Worth able to take part in this or not? Because he joined.
He's not. He joined halfway through.
Yeah.
Okay. Any? Is my figures correct, Anna?
Yes, your totals are correct, Councillor Shortall.
Yeah, 5-3. Okay. Therefore, this particular application is approved, and thank you for that very difficult decision, members. Okay.
Chairman, we need to pass to Anna, don't we? Because
I beg your pardon. So yeah, of course we do, and I do apologise about that. I'm reading my notes too far in advance. Okay, having made a minded to proposal to approve, I now ask Anna Lee to make the formal decision on this item.
Thank you, Chairman, and I confirm that I've heard the presentation and the debate, and that I will respect the wishes of the committee, and this application will therefore be approved, subject to the Section 106 agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so that's recommendation A approved. So therefore we do not need recommendation B. Okay, thank you all concerned. I'll now take item 4B on the agenda. And that is application WP 21-00021 FUL, land west of Branscombe Road, Portland. And that is for the erection of 4 dwellings. Now, this is a presentation by the case officer, Mr. Thomas Wild, and I'll hand over to him. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. I will just share my screen, if that's okay. Can I just check that you can all see my presentation there?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, so the application, as you've heard, is reference WP/21/00021 FUL, land west of Branscombe Close, Portland. The application is for the erection of 4 dwellings. The application site is as shown on the plan here. It's within the Southwell area of Portland, as outlined in red. The application site sits, if I just skip to the next slide, no. So the application site sits to the north of Ripcroft and to the west of Branscombe Close, which is here. So that's me. So the short cul-de-sac here is Branscombe Close, with Ripcroft being the main route through the housing estate within which the site would sit. Here's some some photographs of the application site as it currently is. The application site was from the aerial photographs you will have seen that it was previously incidental open space, but it has now been cleared and a level, some excavations have been taking place to allow for the construction of a previously consented scheme, and the site has been fenced off with Harris fencing. So this is looking to the west along towards, so you have Ripcroft here to the west and the housing fronting onto Ripcroft. This is looking north across the site. So these houses to the rear are accessed from Branscombe Close. This is looking across the site just to illustrate the change in levels that are present across the site. So there is a change in levels of approximately 1.4 metres from the south, the low point at the south, where the access from Ripcroft would be, to the higher points at the north. Another just looking back across the site and showing the relationship with the neighbouring properties on Ripcroft here. And here we have the site plan as proposed. The application, as we said, is for 4 dwellings. We have 3 2-bedroom dwellings and a 1-bedroom dwelling on the end of the terrace. The red line, the dotted red line that you can see here was the scheme as originally submitted. That did raise some concerns at officer level with the relationship that it would have had with neighbouring properties and in the street scene. So amended plans were received, which sought to reduce the scale of the scheme at the eastern end, and also set the dwellings back at the western end so that they have a better, more comfortable relationship with the neighbouring properties. As you can see, access is taken off of Ripcroft, with each dwelling having its own car parking space, dedicated off-street parking, through 2 newly created accesses. This is a street scene elevation from Ripcroft, so this is the southern elevation of the scheme. We have the 3 2-bedroom properties to the left-hand side, and the 1-bedroom property to the right-hand side, with the front door to that is actually taken from the eastern elevation, so it turns the corner and fronts on towards Branscombe Close. And on this plan, the change in the tone of the level of grey of the roof there just denotes where the step in the roof line would be. So the 2 properties on the left are set back slightly from the road compared to the 2 properties on the right. This is the elevation from the east from Branscombe Close, showing the entrance to the 1-bedroom property, and you can see the roofscape of the scheme. The 1-bedroom property is slightly smaller and has a hipped roof, whereas the 2-bedroom properties then step back into the site. The main issues that have been identified are the principle of development, the scale, design and the impact on the character and appearance, impacts on amenity and access and parking. In terms of the principle of development, the site is located within the defined development boundaries, and there is an extant consent on the site for residential development of 2 dwellings. So that was granted in, I think, 2018 for 2 3-bedroom dwellings, and that consent has been implemented, so that remains extant and could be completed. As we know, that the council is also unable to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, so the presumption in favour of sustainable development does apply. In terms of scale, design and the impact on character appearance, the scale and design would be similar to the neighbouring properties that front onto Ripcroft, as 2-storey dwellings, which front onto the road, and as we've heard, the scheme has been amended to avoid the overdominance of the scheme in the street scene and improve the relationship with neighbouring properties. The density of the scheme is in line with development densities which can be observed in the area. The scheme would be slightly higher density than its immediate neighbours, but there are other areas within the estate where higher density terrace development has been carried out, and also there is specific support within the neighbourhood plan for smaller dwellings such as this under policy port/HS1 for housing mix. In respect of amenity, all of the dwellings would meet the government's nationally described space standards, and it's considered that they would have adequate external amenity space, That was one of the concerns raised during the on comments on the initial scheme, but the reorientation and reduction in size of one of the units has allowed those issues to be overcome, and through the orientation and spacing of the site, it's considered that the scheme would not have any harmful impact in respect of overlooking, overbearing or loss of light. In terms of access and parking, as you've heard, all the units would have off-street parking and dedicated parking spaces. There is no highways objection from the Highways Authority, and as there are private gardens, that would allow for the provision of cycle parking within the curtilage of each plot. Therefore, it's the recommendation is that the committee be minded to grant planning permission with the recommended conditions comprising the standard 3 years for implementation, listing the approved plans, materials to be agreed with submission of further information, details of floor levels to be agreed to avoid any harmful impact on neighbours or the setting, turning and parking spaces to be provided prior to occupation, biodiversity enhancement and the removal of permitted development rights. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Thomas. That's introduced. I now invite Jenny Williams now to read the written statement submitted to Democratic Services. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Chair. Phil Watts, Agent. Chairman and members of this committee, I write to respectfully ask for you for your endorsement of your officer's recommendation to enable the appropriate officer to approve this application. Whilst it is noted that objections have been received from the Town Council and a private individual who does not live in this part of the island, key to your consideration must be the fact that not only does this site already benefit from an extant planning permission for a residential development granted as recently as 2018, but that this permission has already been implemented by virtue of the associated groundworks undertaken on site. It follows that despite calls for the site to be retained as incidental open space, the site is already in private ownership where public access is naturally restricted, and there can be no turning back on the clock as far as the site's very recent planning history is concerned. It is a matter of fact that the principle of developing this area of former open space is well established. In terms of what is now proposed, despite their objection, Portland Town Council's own adopted neighbourhood plan actively seeks to promote a housing mix, which is exactly what this proposal will achieve in providing 4 much needed smaller properties, most suited to young couples starting out on the housing ladder. All are of a design which is truly reflective of the character and appearance of the wider Ripcroft and Reap Lane estate, with each of the proposed units benefiting from their own off-road car parking and private amenity space. Portland Town Council suggests that the site is too small to support 4 dwellings. However, the proposed development will truly make the most efficient use of the site and, as your officer quite rightly recognises in his report, the width of each plot is broadly comparable to those properties which already exist in Branscombe Close, wider in fact than many properties in the vicinity. Each property will exceed the national minimum space standard in their size, with the size of each plot being reflective of the range of developments in the vicinity. As also outlined, the proposed dwellings are of a style and design which reflect the majority of the properties in the immediate locality, being of 2 stories in height and terraced in nature. They will also be sited in such a manner as to reflect the established pattern of houses and orientated in such a way as to allow the development to be read as a continuation of existing properties on the estate. Their relative spaciousness will also be enhanced by their open frontages facing onto the public highway. On the basis that the development will make a small but valuable contribution towards the identified housing shortage, as well as making a positive contribution to the established patterns of development within this part of Southwell and the wider Ripcroft and Reap Lane estate, I respectfully reiterate my request for your endorsement of your officer's recommendation in respect of this much needed and appropriate development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Jenny. That's very kind. I'm now going to go back to Tom as well to respond with any salient points you may wish to clarify.
Thank you, Chair. There's nothing that I'd like to add following the representation that's just been read out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to take technical questions. If I may, Tom, come in first on the technical questions. It was commented on that, in fact, following the application, the prior application originally 2018, but it was a bit recent than that, groundwork has already been started. Now, that application was for 2 properties. Is the groundwork that started based on the 2 properties or the now newly intended 4 properties?
Thank you. Yes, the groundwork is, as I understand it, for the 2 properties. If I just skip back to some of the photos that have been provided, it's probably best. Yeah, so the groundwork does relate to the 2 properties, and if I just skip to some of my slides, you can see I've got this is the site plan for the approved 2-unit scheme. So you can see that the groundworks, as a comparison, relate to that layout and not necessarily the layout that is currently sought, although the current layout would be broadly compatible with the groundworks that have been carried out.
Thank you for that. Okay, that answers my question. Right, Councillor O'Leary, is there any other members wishing to ask technical questions?
Councillor Susan Cockins, Chairman.
Yeah, okay, Susan, go ahead, please.
Thank you. It's sort of in relation to what you were asking as well, Chair. So the previous application, it was for 2 houses, and now it's for 4 houses. And yes, we do want smaller accommodation for people, but not bunny hatches for people to live in. We need them to live in decent sized housing. But it says on 10.4, was it good design is a key aspect of sustainable development, blah, 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 and should contribute positively to making places better for people. I just have concerns that, and there's another a bit on 15.8, while the dwellings would be relatively small, so it's already noted within there that it is small. So the loss of amenity from going, my point is, it was for 2 houses. Have they got the same outside space as for the 4 houses? Because I'm just, my concern is this is overdevelopment of this land, because you're trying to, where you put 2 before, now you want to try and squeeze 4 in. And I'm just concerned that, you know, is there enough what is the outdoor space now for these 4 dwellings? You know, garden space. It's most probably just a line of a garden, whereas before there was 2 houses. Yes, we do want we do want smaller size housing, but not so small that people, it's a real struggle. It's not achievable to live in. We need people to have better places to live in. My concern is that we're trying to squeeze a lot of houses into 1 plot, whereas they were quite happy to put 2 in now. No, they're happy to put 4 in now instead of 2.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Susan.
Okay. I just want to know what the outdoor space is as well.
I'm going to seek an answer to that, and then I'm going to interject slightly on a different matter. So, yeah, could you answer that, please? That the particular question, please, Mr. Well?
Yes, so I've got the site plan for the proposed scheme on the screen at the moment. So as you can see from this, each of the properties proposed do benefit from their own private garden space. I don't have, unfortunately, the measurements to hand at the moment, but you can see they vary in size. The westernmost property here has quite a generous garden owing to the shape of the site. It's the slightly irregular plot shape means that one benefits from quite a large garden which extends around the side of the property. The other properties have all do have their own garden space with with a secondary rear access as well. So they all have secondary access into the rear gardens, which allows kind of access to the rear of those properties. So yes, they do have external amenity space provided, and the assessment is that it's the amount of space provided is considered to be appropriate for the size of the dwellings that is proposed. It's naturally that, yes, the amenity space overall per dwelling is smaller, but the dwellings are smaller, so they would have less requirement for amenity space as well.
Thank you for that, Tom. Before I continue with technical questions, Councillor Leary, am I right in thinking that Councillor Worth has now joined us?
Yes, he did. Yes.
And good morning, Councillor Worth.
Good morning, Chairman. Yes, I've been here for the whole of this current presentation and back in the last one. So.
You're very faint. Councillor Worth, have you heard the entire presentation and debate of this current plan?
Yes, I certainly have, yes.
Okay. Before you participate, then I just want to ask you, do you have any declarations of interest on any item on this or any other item on the agenda?
No, I don't, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
And now we'll go back to Councillor O'Leary. Do we have any other further technical questions, please?
Councillor Paul Kember.
Thank you. Councillor Kember, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On this development, my concern is around that we've gone over from 2 to 4. I can certainly live with 2 properties, but it does seem, as you highlighted, the neighbouring properties are very close. One end is very close to the neighbouring properties, and I'm thinking, is this good planning to have those end properties so close to the adjoining properties? Thank you. That's my technical question. So along the same lines as Councillor Sue Cockins.
Was that actually a question?
Well, my question is the concern is the neighbouring properties being so close within our guidelines of planning, and I'm saying my feeling is that we're much too close.
And you're asking the case officer whether he is of the same opinion?
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, back to you then, Cameron.
Yes, so presumably the query is relating to this relationship just shown here on the
that's
plan.
Right.
Yes, so at the original application based on this red line, there was a concern around that because the building stepped forward from the established building line, which runs broadly here. It's probably helpful if I skip back to the aerial photography. That probably helps to illustrate. It is quite common, however, for properties side by side to have quite close relationships. You can see these are the properties on Ripcroft, so they do have quite close relationships, and so that is quite a common feature of the area. And if we look here as well, there are no windows in the side elevation of that property either. So it's basically considered that there wouldn't really be any harmful impact upon the amenity of neighbours as a result of that relationship, because there are no windows proposed in either side elevation, so that you would effectively just have a pathway running between the two houses.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that satisfy your question, Councillor Kimber?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any further technical questions, please?
Councillor Dave Bolwell.
Okay. Councillor Bolwell, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. I've noticed a few comments about how small these are, but also it exceeds national minimum space standards. Do you have a rough idea, percentage-wise, of what the excess is, or is it sort of borderline?
Thank you for that. I'll come back to Mr. Wild?
They are. I think the answer is probably that they're borderline. I don't have precise figures on me, but yes, they have been checked and they are. They do pass, but they are close. I'll put it that way.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that.
Answer your question, Councillor Burwell?
Chair, certainly does, Chair, yes.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Any other further technical questions, please, Councillor Leary?
Councillor Sarah Williams, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Williams, you've got a technical question.
Yes, my question is regarding the actual land on this that's being developed here. Was this originally a designated green space within the original building of the estate?
Thank you for that. I'll go back to Mr. Wild to respond.
The land didn't have any formal status, as far as I'm aware, in terms of the building of the estate. It was what we'd term incidental green space. You can see from the aerial photography, it was effectively a small grassed area. So it would have been available to use it informally, but there was no designation as such, and it's not subject to any policy designations as green space either.
Okay.
Thank you.
Answer your question, Councillor Williams. Okay, any other technical questions, please, Councillor Leary?
No.
Okay, right. So I now open the debate to members. And do we have anyone wishing to speak?
Councillor Nick Harland wishing to make a proposal, but also Councillor Bolwell wishes to speak.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Harland first, then.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, having heard all the discussions and read the report, I think we come down to the fact that this site, our predecessors approved 2 houses. I note that Portland Town Council have objected, but part of that is on the incidental open spaces amenity, and it doesn't have it anymore. That's gone. So other than the issues about density, yes, it is quite close, but there are lots of small houses, and if you go to London, you live in lots smaller places than that. So I'm happy to propose.
Propose. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Right. Now, who is wishing to speak?
Councillor Dayball and Councillor Kate.
Sorry, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, Councillor Ireland beat me to it on this one, so I'd like to second the proposal, please.
Second the proposal. So your second proposal. Okay, we've got a proposal and second. Anyone else wishing to speak before we take a vote by roll call?
Councillor Weller and Councillor Kimber.
Are they wishing to speak?
Yes.
Okay, over to you, Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Having said what I said at the last application, I feel I should quickly clarify the reasons for the decision that I will be making on this one. This is exactly the size houses that we need in the area, these starter homes, these small homes for people who want to downsize and free up the family homes that we need. This isn't a contentious area. It almost finishes off the row of the other houses. So although they are small, I think they are small and beautifully formed, one might say. So despite the lack of facilities on the island, I think that this is a good use of this piece of land.
Thank you, Councillor Weller. Now go to Councillor Paul Kimber.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for the councillors. My feeling on this development is it's just, for me, just gone over that limit of being overdeveloped on that site. Yes, you're right to pick up that we have difficulties on the island, if you like, with traffic and getting on and off the island is getting worse, but that's not a planning decision. And my feeling is that it's just overdeveloped. Thank you.
Okay, right. Anyone else wishing to speak?
No.
Thank you. We've got a proposer and a seconder to accept the recommendations, and I'm now going to take the vote by roll call. So I'm going to start with, for clarity, Councillor Dave Bolwell.
Minded to approve, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
Minded to approve, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Cocking.
Against, Chair, for reasons of overdevelopment.
Okay, you're against. Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Nick Arlen, for clarity.
Approve.
Right. Councillor Paul Kimber.
Against, Chair, on the same grounds, overdevelopment.
Yeah. Councillor Louis O'Leary.
For, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Williams.
Minded to approve.
Thank you. Having heard the full debate, Councillor Worth, you are now enabled to vote. So how would you vote?
Yeah, I've heard the full debate and I'm minded to approve.
Thank you. Right, and I will approve also.
Chairman, what about me?
Oh, why did I miss you, Councillor Dunseith?
I don't know.
Because you're highlighted here as one of the important members of our committee. So yes. Councillor Dunseith.
Minded to approve, Chairman.
Thank you very much, and I do apologise, Jean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for, 1 against. Am I correct?
No, 2 against, Chairman.
No, I beg your pardon, 2 against. You're quite right.
Okay.
Yeah, just put it down to my age. Right. Okay. 9-2. Is that according to your mathematics, Anna?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Having made a minded to a resolve to approve this particular proposal, I now ask Anna Lee to make the formal decision on this item.
Thank you, Chairman, and I confirm that I have heard the presentation and debate, and this application will be determined in line with the committee's minded to resolution, which means the application will be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Before I take item 4C, is there anyone wishing to have a short break?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Can we adjourn for say 10 minutes?
Yep.
And recommence at 20 to 12. Is that the approval of you all?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Have a nice cup of tea, and I'll show you. I'll join you again, or join at 20 to 12. Thank you, members. We're now on 20 to 12. I'll do a quick roll call to make sure everyone's back on. Okay. And Councillor Dave Bower, are you present?
Yes, Chair, you caught me by surprise there.
Oh, sorry.
Fast fingers.
Kelvin Clayton, are you present?
I am, Chair.
Oh, good. Councillor Susan Cocking?
I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Dunser?
I'm here, Chairman.
Councillor Nick Ireland?
Present.
Councillor Paul Kimber?
Present.
Councillor Louis O'Leary?
Present.
Councillor Kate Weller? Come back to you, Councillor Weller. Councillor Sarah Williams?
Present.
Councillor John Worth?
Present, Chairman.
Councillor Kate Weller? I'll give her a few moments. Councillor Kate Weller?
Would you like me to ring her, Chairman?
Give her another few seconds, I think, Louis.
She must have a slow copy machine.
It probably is. Councillor Kate Weller? Yeah, okay, Louis, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, he's here, Louis. Just signed in. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Weller. Okay, right, okay. We'll now take item 4C on the agenda, and that is P/FUL/2021/02334, and that's Adult Education Centre, 45 Dorset Road, Weymouth. And that's for the temporary demolition and reinstatement of a section of the existing front wall to widen the entrance and carry out repairs to the wall. And I now invite Mr. Thomas Wild again, the case officer, to introduce this item. Welcome again, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. I will just share my screen, if I may. Can I just check everybody can see my presentation?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So the application, as we heard, relates to the Adult Education Centre on 45 Dorchester Road, Weymouth, for the temporary demolition and reinstatement of a section of the existing front wall to widen the entrance and carry out repairs to said wall. So the application site is shown here. The boundary to the Adult Education Centre is outlined in blue on this site location plan, with the area of wall to be affected outlined in red. Just zoom in ever so slightly. This shows a bit more of a detailed location plan. So the area of wall here sits to the northwest of the existing access to the site, and there's an area of a distance of 3.27 meters of existing wall, which is proposed to be removed, and associated with it the removal of a tree. The purpose of the proposal is effectively to facilitate access during the construction period for a children's home which is being constructed in this northwestern part of the site, which was consented last year. This is the site plan for that consented scheme. So as you can see, the children's centre is located here, with the existing building being retained and the site being appropriately landscaped. The entrance gates are to be reinstated after the fact the construction is to take place, and the landscaping will continue. So this is an elevation of the street showing the area of the wall to be removed. So the red line here on the elevation indicates the extent of that's the location of an existing crack in the wall, which is the limit of the part of the wall that's to be removed. So it's everything to the left hand side of that wall and as far as the gates, and so that part of the wall would be removed, and the tree behind it would also be removed to facilitate access for the construction, because the construction of the children's centre is to be with a modular construction, so there's lorries and things to be delivering materials to the site. There's just a photograph of the street scene showing the wall. You can just about see the crack here, but basically it's everything to the west of to the left hand side of where my pointer is there is to be removed, and you can see the tree that is also to be removed to facilitate that access. So the main issues are related to conservation and heritage, highways, and the trees and landscaping. In conservation terms, the site is within a conservation area, but it's considered that as the wall is to be rebuilt, it's proposed that not only will the wall will be rebuilt, but it also be rebuilt using the materials that that's currently on the site, which will be retained and kept on site, and so that will avoid any harm to the conservation area. In highways terms, there is no objection from the Highways Authority. It was recommended that a condition be attached to require provision of the access to the site prior to occupation, although that condition is already addressed through the extant consent for the children's home, so it wasn't considered necessary to attach that condition to to this decision. And in respect to trees and landscaping, there would be the loss of one tree. The tree has been assessed as being category C, which is indicative of it not being a constraint upon development, and it would be the loss of that tree would be compensated through the landscaping scheme that's being delivered for the wider consent on the site. So therefore, the recommendation is that the committee be minded to grant planning permission, subject to recommended conditions with 3-year implementation period, approved plans, the bricks arising from the demolition of the wall to be retained on site and reused in the construction of the wall, the pointing of the wall to match the parts of the wall that are retained, and the wall to be replaced and reinstated before the occupation of the previously consented scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Phil. That's great. Are there any technical questions, questions of a technical nature for the case officer?
None in the chat bar, Chairman.
Right, I now open up the proposition for debate. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? Councillor Howley.
Councillor Sarah Williams to start, Chairman.
Okay, over to you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I propose that we recommend this application. We're minded to recommend this application. I think all my worries have been answered with the use of the same bricks to reinstate the wall. This is to aid construction of a important building for Dorset Council for the housing of children.
Happy to second that, Chairman.
Who was that?
Was Councillor O'Leary.
Councillor O'Leary, you're seconding that? Okay. Thank you, Larry. No, second A. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Councillor Jean Dunseith, Chairman.
Councillor Jean Dunseith, you wish to?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I just put an RTS in the chat bar because I was going to propose we accept this. We gave the original proposals for this children's home, this committee. It's necessary to get the work done. It's temporary and all will be reinstated with original materials. So I'm happy to vote for this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Beautifully said, Councillor Dunseith. No one else wanting to speak? Okay, members, we've got a proposition which has been duly seconded. I will now take a roll call. Councillor Dave Burwell.
Minded to approve, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
Approve.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Cocking.
Approved, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Sunset.
Approved, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Nick Ireland.
Approve.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Kember.
Approved, Chair.
Thank you. For clarity, Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Approved, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
Approved, Chair. I was in the meeting all the time, Chairman. I just couldn't get my mic to switch on, so I have been part of the discussion.
I did note your comment in the chat bar, okay, so I knew you were there all the time.
In spirit, thank you.
In spirit. Councillor Sarah William, for clarity.
Minded to approve.
Thank you. And Councillor John Worth.
Minded to approve, Chairman.
Okay, and I am also, so that's unanimous. Okay. I having made a unanimous decision then to make a minded to approval of this proposal, I now ask Annalie to make a formal decision on this item.
Thank you, Chair, and I confirm that this application will be determined in line with the minded to resolution of the committee, so the application will be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna. Lovely. Okay, we're now at item D on the agenda, and that's WP 21-00196 FUL, land adjacent to former Gatehouse Westway, Southwell Business Park, Portland. And that's for the erection of 8 dwellings following approval of permission in principle, application number WP 19-00162 PIP. Right, I now invite Joe Riley, the case officer, to introduce this item. Good morning, Joe.
Hiya. Well, I'll just get my PowerPoint up for you.
Okay.
Something is being shared in the live event right now. It says, oh, I guess I just say cancel on what I share. We'll override that. Yeah, okay. Where am I? Slideshow from the beginning. Have you got a red line around it? Can you see it all?
Yeah, I don't think we've actually got your presentation. We've got the agenda.
You've got the red line. Oh, okay. Let me just, yeah, I obviously something weird happened then. Let me just close what I've got. Let's go back to my share screen. I'll just check. So I'm pressing to share my screen and the agenda item is there. I want to share my PowerPoint. Share.
Is there anyone on hand?
There it is. No, that's all right. It might work now. There it is. You're getting it now. Yeah, I think you've got you're getting it now, aren't you?
Yeah, we've got it now. We've
So
not
from the beginning.
It's not on full screen. No, it is. That's fine.
Now it is. You've got it from. Oh gosh.
Yeah, we're all okay now, Joe.
All this technology, I don't know how other people manage, and then all of a sudden it goes wrong. Right. Okay. Oh dear. Right. Land adjacent to the former Gatehouse Westway. A little bit of background. This was granted permission in principle in September 2019. It actually did come before committee members, so I don't know how many of you were there at the time and remember it. Permissions in principle were introduced the legislation was introduced in June 2018 purely to kind of speed up the planning process, to stop people on housing sites hanging on to land grabbing, I think they call it. So the difference between an outline application and a reserve matters is the timescales are much quicker. So when we granted the permission in principle for the 8 houses, they have to commence the development within 3 years of the date of the permission in principle. They then have to come forward with what we call the technical details, which are what we've got before us today. The permission in principle has already agreed development of this site for 8 houses, because we've agreed the location, the land use and the amount of dwellings on that land, and that has already been agreed. So now when you're looking at the technical details, you're looking at the other matters that weren't considered at the permission in principle. So just as a reminder, this is the site. This is this is Sweet Hill Road as you come into Atlantic Academy, IPACA, Maritime Business Park, and this is a little. Do you know I need to do my pointer, don't I? Let me just do my little pointer as well. Just remind me. Never mind. You'll have to just have my cursor. Sorry. So this is a little children's play area. This is the red line of the application site, and it takes in some grassland behind the children's play area. And the rest of the site, which has already got permission to be developed, is this corner of the car park that serves the Atlantic Academy. At the time when the PIP was agreed, this was underused, and it was used as builders' storage area compound. I think that might have moved now. So along Sweet Hill Road, you've got a cul-de-sac of bungalows, and as you go further back into the site, this is called Underhedge Gardens, and that's mostly chalet bungalows with large dormers. So the scheme we're looking at is basically the layout of the houses, the car park in the amenity space. As you come into the site, you've got this access road splitting into 2 directions. You've got 2 bungalows, and they are 2 bedrooms each. And then the remaining 6 properties are pairs of semi-detached, and they are 3 bedrooms each. Each one has got a tandem car parking space, and there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 visitor car parking spaces for the site. The garden spaces are commensurate with what you get elsewhere around the area, and there's plenty of space for some landscaping as you come into the site, bearing in mind a lot of this end part here is car parking area, so we consider that is an enhancement. This is plots 1 and 2, which are the bungalows, fairly simple design. They are white render stone and grey artificial slate. Little porches to give a bit of detail on the front. You know, nothing special, simple designed houses. And the pairs of semis, they've got windows under the eaves, low eaves, no dormers, no chimneys or anything like that. Again, sort of simple, fairly basic design houses. A little bit of detailing has been put in on the porches there. So these are the bungalows, 2-bedroom bungalows, and these are designed to be lifetime homes. So they've got access for disability. And the pairs of semis, 3-bedroom properties, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and a little 3rd bedroom / study, a bathroom, a family bathroom, and an ensuite on the master bedroom. This was just because this has cropped up from the highways officer. He wanted an extension to the footpath as you come around from Sweet Hill Road, because you come along here as a footpath and then it stopped for a little bit and then it stops. And the red line of the application site, which has a footpath that goes into it, wouldn't include this extra little bit. So we've organised with the applicant, and they have agreed at their expense and maintenance to add an extra little bit of footpath. Now, we couldn't extend the red line to include that because it's the technical details following the granting of the PIP. You can't change the red line. They would have had to reapply completely over again, because the technical details has to be in accordance with the red line of the PIP. So we've added that as a Grampian condition because it is outside of the red line of the site. But that was just so the highways officer had made concern that people coming along here with prams and pushchairs or whatever, wheelchairs, would have had to drop down into the road and go back up a step. That's just here, it's clearer here. So that's the edge of the little children's play area that's there at the moment. The site starts about here behind you, and that would have a footpath. So we've just organised to have a little extended bit of footpath there, so you're not having to come down the curb, walk along the road a little bit and then into the site. I just put that up to show that that was the actual red line of the permission in principle that's already been granted. This was the decision notice on the permission in principle of September 2019. Not a lot of conditions, just the time limit is attached to this, so we don't actually add a time limit again to the technical details, because they've got to commence the work within 3 years of the PIP being granted, which will take them up to September 2022. I've put this up because we've been having comments come in about the neighbourhood plan, which, as we all know, was quite new. It was only made on the 22nd of June. And in the new neighbourhood plan, this has been extended to include our site. This site we're looking at is just about here. That's a little building of the play area. So the neighbourhood plan people extended this area here, which they call in as employment land, but that has not changed in the local plan. We have got a review of the local plan, but it isn't adopted yet, and I haven't actually looked to see if the new local plan would include this as an employment. I'm only putting it in because it's going to be raised, because the principle of development of this site has already been established. And one of the things that I would say is, even if you did want to take this into account, the new neighbourhood plan, bearing in mind that the principle was established before the neighbourhood plan was made, then the reason for the allocation as an employment site is to protect employment land. Now, as this is only the car park, it's not taking away any business units, it's not taking away any employment. So if we were to look at that in accordance with the policy Econ 2 in the local plan, and the principle has already been established, it isn't affecting any businesses. We've had comments from a business to say they want to make sure that during any construction that people can still get to their businesses. There's a lot of businesses tucked around there, but it won't actually take any of that away. And we've put a condition for a construction management plan to make sure that that those roads are left open as well. So the main issues, it's already got permission for development. We cannot refuse this application on the grounds of saying we do not want houses on that site. We have already granted permission for 8 houses on that site. So the technical details, we're looking at the design and the materials and the layout. The mix of houses complies with the neighbourhood plan policy HS1 that says that there's preference for smaller houses. These are only 2 bedrooms and 3 bedroom houses. There's no harm to the immediate neighbours. There's plenty of space between the back of the windows of these houses and the back gardens and the neighbours' properties. We haven't got any highways objections. It isn't allocated in the local plan at the moment as an employment site, We're going to get some gain by getting this extra footpath at the applicant's expense. Reference has also been made in some comments about a Section 106 agreement. Now, that was a Section 106 agreement from 2013 when a change of use occurred from business units to the school, and that was to do with traffic management and travel plan. Should that need changing, then that can be done outside of this planning application, and I put an informative on the bottom of the decision to remind the applicant that they need to look into that to see if it does need changing, and that's might be happening in the background. There's also a variation of a condition application that came in 2016 that is going along in the background, and that was to do with varying conditions that they mostly just deal with footways and crossings. And I've looked at the plans of that, and there's no footways or crossings that would be impacted or affected by this site. Having said that, we've already granted the permission for the houses anyway. It's just a bit of extra information. So the conditions we've put on the plans list materials, I've removed the PD rights because particularly the bungalows, so that they can't then turn them into chalet bungalows and put dormers on without us controlling them. A condition to make sure that that little bit of footpath is extended. Highways wanted the turning and parking to be constructed. Details of the landscaping, soft landscaping, continued maintenance. There is a biodiversity mitigation plan that has been submitted because there's a little bit of grassland behind the back of the children's play area that is semi-mature grassland that would be lost. But the mitigation plan can offset that by additional planting, fruit trees, bat boxes, swallow boxes, that type of thing. And then we've got the traffic management plan and the construction environmental management plan as well, just to control all the construction that goes on the site. So that's all I have to say, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jan. Oh, that's very comprehensive. I now invite Jenny Williams to read the written statement submitted to Democratic Services. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Chair. Andrew Matthews. Please could I lodge the further comment below which explains why the Town Council made reference to the minerals consultation area in their reply and also the designation of the employment zone. As part of the development of our neighbourhood plan, we reviewed the development boundaries and employment site classifications. It was agreed that we would move the development boundary at the Southwell Business Park to the east to include the car park. We also extended the employment zone area in a similar manner. The intention was to allow potentially eastward movement of the business park if it needed to expand, but also to allow for coastal erosion on the western boundaries. The car park area is also subject to the minerals policy, with mining now the approved method of extraction. The car park provides a potentially sustainable corridor route to access the substantive reserves in the southern part of the island. We are aware of constraints issues with the access proposals southeast of Southwell. The provision of employment spaces are seen as less likely to sterilise stone extraction, whereas the construction of housing would do so in the context of the above. The designation of this site for development was part of the process by the then Weymouth and Portland Council, which avoided referring the proposal to Portland Town Council for ratification or comment. I have lodged 4 maps with the case officer to illustrate these details. Phoebe Milner, Agent. Good morning, members. I wish to outline the main considerations why we feel planning should be granted today in line with the officer's recommendation. Firstly, I would like to clarify that the principle of residential development on the site has always been accepted following the approved permission in principle which agreed location, land use and amount of development. Therefore, the residential use of the land has already been established and remains extant. The Portland Town Council concerns refer to the site as a registered employment site. However, the employment allocation at Southwell Business Park does not include this site, and since the principle of residential development has already been established, the technical details could not be refused on this basis. Therefore, I will now outline the relevant matters which should be considered in this application. In terms of highways, the initial concerns related to the extending of the proposed footpath to connect with the existing footpath outside the nursery. These concerns have been overcome by an agreement with the LPA, which will be secured by a Grampian condition and therefore resolve the highway officer's concerns. In terms of parking, the proposal provides 2 tandem spaces per dwelling and 4 visitor spaces. As such, the movement of 8 households is not considered significant, therefore the parking arrangements are acceptable. Furthermore, the applicant will mitigate the biodiversity and infrastructure effects via the SIL contribution. Consequently, there will be no adverse effects on the integrity of the protected habitats nor public infrastructure. In terms of design, the proposed development creates 3 pairs of semi-detached houses and 2 detached bungalows, totaling 8 dwellings. Each property will have a private rear garden as well as shared landscaping space to the front. Therefore, it is considered an acceptable balance of built form, amenity space and landscaping enhancements are proposed. The proposal is compatible with the character of the area as many nearby properties reflect similar materials and scale. Sweet Hill Road commonly uses stone and slate roofs for their bungalows, while Barlands Close primarily have 2-storey properties. The proposed development uses a mix of render and stone with slate roofs to reflect the character of the area, while using a variety of 1- and 2-storey dwellings to respond to the locality. In terms of privacy, the surrounding properties' amenity space are protected by 1.8-metre fences, while the bungalows are specifically located on site to remove potential overlooking to number 50 Sweet Hill Road. Therefore, the scheme safeguards neighbouring amenity. Overall, the applicant strongly considers the application will enhance the character and appearance of the area while safeguarding neighbouring amenity. I hope you agree with your planning officer and ask that you move to vote to approve this accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jenny. That's well presented. Now I'm going to go back and to Joe Riley just to respond with any salient points you may wish to clarify.
Yeah, I can just tell you that we did consult Minerals Conservation. I forgot to tell you, and they came back and they said they have no comments, no objections. Okay.
Fine. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, Joe. Right. Are there any questions of a particular technical nature for the case officer? Louis. No, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Councillor Paul Kember.
Okay, Paul, you go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Fellow councillors, I'm open-minded about this, but I think there's an important point is employment land. I'm thinking, I know many of the questions I get around planning is with our amenities, our doctors and schools be able to take all the extra development, and I'm just wondering how we need to protect this area for employment land. That's just my technical question. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to take that back to the case officer for to clarify that. Over to you, Joe.
Yeah, so in the local plan on the map that I showed you, let me bring that up again, the purple one. So this is the adopted local plan, and it's allocated in the local plan. Policy Econ 2 protects strategic employment sites, and at the moment, bit here and the car park isn't allocated as a key employment site. So we are working on the local plan, but we're not actually with this application because that isn't part of the consideration. That would have been the background consideration when the permission in principle was granted. We would have looked at the policies in the local plan at the time. So at the time that permission was granted for the 8 houses, that is how it stands in the local plan, and that is still as it is at the moment. The neighbourhood plan has increased the area allocated as key employment site. Strangely enough, just to take in this little area here. Now in the local plan, the policy Econ 2 is there to protect employment. And I was looking at it. Yeah,
can I
sorry.
just interrupt you a moment?
Yeah.
Oh, your pointer's not working. I was just wondering.
No, I tried to get the red. I try and get the little red dot, but
Okay.
I know you press on something to get the red dot to work.
If you can indicate which area you're talking about verbally, then please.
Yeah. So the little bit that comes out, the little kink coming out to the right hand side of the larger site of the larger lump, that has been added on. So previously, so the local plan is like that, and the neighbourhood plan is like that. So they've added a bit onto the neighbourhood plan and made the whole area a little bit bigger. But the reason behind that policy in the neighbourhood plan and the local plan is to protect key employment sites. And like I said, this isn't going to affect any of the businesses that are in there. It's not a change of use of any of the businesses or removal or demolition of any of the buildings. It's just the car park area. So even if we were looking at the principle, which we really aren't, we shouldn't really be having this discussion because the principle is already established. Even if we were considering the loss of employment, the housing being built on the car park area wasn't considered at the time and still wouldn't be considered to be harmful to employment, to the loss of employment, because it's not affecting any buildings or businesses that are there. It's just the car park.
Thank you, Joe. Does that answer your question, Councillor Kimber?
Yes, Chair. Yes, I've got other feelings about employment land and parking, but yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Louis, do we have any further technical questions?
Anne Collins wishes to speak.
Oh, right. Okay, over to you, Anne.
Chair, I was just going to confirm what Joe had said. Basically, whether members wish to protect this as employment land or not, the ability to do so has been lost. The principle and permission in principle has been granted, and there is a permission for 8 houses on this site. So unfortunately, it is somewhat irrelevant, whatever it may be designated as in the local plan or now the neighbourhood plan, because that ship has sailed, Chair.
Thank you, Anne. Is all members clear about what's just been stated? Okay, do we have any further technical questions?
No,
okay,
Chairman.
all right. If there's as there's no more.
Hang on, Councillor Sarah Williams has just come in. I'm not sure if that's technical or preemptive for a debate question.
Okay,
it's a technical question, Lou.
Okay, Councillor Williams, go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that 6 houses are semi-detached houses, and you said that most of the development around there are chalet bungalows. Are they going to be in keeping with the area, or are they going to sort of be a lot taller than the surrounding properties?
Thank you, Councillor William. I'll go back to Joe Riley to answer that question.
Okay, so the nearest properties are these properties in Sweet Hill Road. That's a bungalow, that's a bungalow, and that's a bungalow. When you go down here, which is Underhedge Close.
Remembering you haven't got a pointer, please.
Oh yeah, sorry. When you go to Underhedge Close, which is the northeast corner of the site, they tend to be chalet bungalows. So yeah, okay, so they may be slightly taller than the bungalows. The semi-detached properties might be slightly taller than the bungalows, but they are not immediately close to them, and also they don't kind of have any relevance to a particular street scene because they're kind of standalone. They won't sort of fit in with they haven't got to take any, they haven't got to join in with these houses that are here because they're not going to form part of the frontage or the street scene of those existing houses. But there is enough distance left between the back gardens and where the houses are sited so that there isn't any immediate amenity impact or harm.
Thank you, that answers my question.
Thank you both. Right, we've got another technical question from Councillor Weller, I believe.
Yes.
It's not really a technical question, Chairman. It's in response to Councillor Williams, and Joe has pretty much covered it. The nature of those bungalows is that they have quite high dormer windows in them. So although they are chalet bungalows, they're quite high chalet bungalows in the first place. And because of the nature of the land there, they're fairly high up anyway, aren't they, Joe? And the site is quite distinct from the existing property. So it's not as though you're changing the sight lines or an eye line of the buildings particularly. So I understand what Councillor Williams is saying, but I don't think it's a problem in this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Weller. Okay. Right. Okay. Any further technical questions?
No, Chairman, not I'm aware of.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, then I now open the debate to members. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
Councillor Nick Harland, Chairman.
Right, Nick, you go ahead.
I'll just say I'm happy to propose the recommendation.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman, as Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Okay.
There's also Councillor Bowell wishes to speak.
Okay, Councillor Bowell, you wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As the ship has now sailed, as stated just now, it seems a shame the ship sailed without telling the neighbourhood plan. I was going to do the same as Councillor Lou O'Leary, which was to second it, but I'll let him do this one, obviously.
Okay, that's fine. No one else wishing to speak? Right. Okay, then we'll take we've got a proposer and a seconder. We'll now take a vote by roll call.
Chair, sorry, Chair, it's Anne. Can I just be clear that on the update sheet circulated yesterday, there was an amended condition 4 relating to an additional plan we'd received in respect of that connecting bit of footpath that Joe was talking about earlier. So am I able to ask, please, that you confirm with the seconder and proposer that they're happy to incorporate that amendment to condition 4 as per the update sheet?
Right, well, I'll then take the proposer, which is Councillor Nick Harland. Are you happy with that amendment to the conditions?
He's indicating.
I am, Chairman.
Yeah.
Good. And Councillor O'Leary, you're happy as well?
I am, Chairman.
And those both the proposer and seconder are happy with the change in conditions. Okay, we'll now take a vote by roll call. Councillor Dave Bolwell.
Minded to approve, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
Approved, Chair.
Thank you, Kelvin. Councillor Susan Coppins. Susan.
Approved, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Jean Dancer.
Approved, Chair.
Thank you, Jean.
Oh.
Okay, for clarity, Councillor Nick Ireland.
Approve.
Councillor Paul Kimber.
Approved, Chair.
Thank you. For clarity, Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Sue O'Leary, yes, approved, Chairman.
All right, don't embarrass me more. Councillor Kate Weller.
Approve.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Right. Councillor Sarah Williams.
Minded to approve.
Thank you. And Councillor John Worth.
Minded to approve, Chairman.
Thank you. And I'm in approval as well. That's unanimous. That concludes that particular item. Unanimously in favour of a recommendation. And I now hand over to Anna-Lee to make the formal decision on this item.
Thank you, Chair, and I confirm that this application will be determined in line with the committee's resolution, so it will be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Right, members, committee meetings are limited to 3 hours duration unless the majority of members present ballot for the meeting to continue. It is therefore necessary to take a vote to resume the meeting beyond the limit. We have advertised the item 4E in the afternoon session, and that's been advertised. We can't bring that forward. So therefore, can I take a vote for the extension of the meeting by roll call? Those in favour, please. David Bowell.
Yes, Chair, I'm in favour.
In favour, thank you. Councillor Kelvin Clayton.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Cohen.
Agree, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Dunseth.
Yes, Chairman.
Councillor Nick Ireland.
Agree, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Paul Kimber.
Agree, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Agreed, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Kate Weller.
Agreed.
Councillor Sarah Williams.
Agreed.
Councillor John Worth.
Agreed.
And I agree as well. So therefore, it's been a unanimous decision to extend the meeting beyond the 3-hour limit. So I will now close the morning session for lunch. The afternoon session will commence at 2 p.m. So everyone have a lovely lunch, and I look forward to seeing you at 2. Thank you again.